My name is Dana Whitlock, and I'm 34 years old. 8 years ago, my brother forged financial records to make it look like I'd been skimming cash from our family's hardware store for 2 years straight. It was a total setup. He had fake ledgers, doctored bank slips, the whole 9 yards. And that one frame job cost me my entire family. My dad pressed charges, actual criminal charges that got dropped only because the DA's office couldn't make the paper trail stick. My mom still believed I did it anyway. They didn't just cut me off. They told the whole town I was a thief. Then 3 weeks ago, my brother Colton got pulled over on Route 9 for a hit and run that left a cyclist in critical condition. The case landed on the DA's desk the next morning, and when the assistant district attorney walked into the arraignment and Colton looked up and saw exactly who'd be prosecuting his case, he went white as a sheet right there in the courtroom. Now let me back up, because you need the full picture before you get to that courtroom. I grew up in Millbrook, a small town about 40 minutes outside Pittsburgh, above and around my family's hardware store, Whitlock & Sons, even though it was always just me and my brother, no sons, required my dad's little joke that never stopped being not funny. Colton's 2 years older than me, the guy who could charm a discount out of any customer and somehow still come up short at the register by Friday. I was the one who actually did the books. Every summer since I was 15, I sat in that back office reconciling receipts while Colton worked the floor-cracking jokes, with the regulars being the face everybody in Millbrook loved. My dad, Walt, ran that place with an iron grip and exactly one soft spot: Colton. Whatever Colton did wrong got explained away. Whatever I did right got a nod and nothing else. I went to Penn State for accounting. Came back every summer to keep doing the books because, honestly, nobody else in that family could balance a checkbook to save their life. I figured that was just my role. Quiet, reliable, the one who kept the lights on while Colton got the credit for keeping the doors open. The year I graduated, I got accepted into a joint JD program back in Pittsburgh Law School, with an eye toward corporate fraud work. Eventually. My dad actually looked proud for about 4 seconds. A lawyer in the family, he said. Well, I'll be. That was as good as it ever got with him, and I took it. That was also the exact summer the numbers at the store started going sideways. Here's what actually happened. Colton had racked up a mess of gambling debt. I didn't know it at the time, found out years later, and he'd been quietly pulling cash out of the store's deposits to cover it, a few hundred here, a few hundred there, for almost 2 years. By the time my dad's accountant flagged the discrepancy, it added up to just over $38,000. Colton didn't just deny it. He built a whole case against me. He'd learned enough watching me do the books to fake a set of ledger entries with my initials on them timed to weekends I'd actually been home from school. He forged a bank slip showing a cash withdrawal on a day I could barely account for. He even planted a burner phone receipt in my old bedroom closet dated to a trip I'd supposedly taken to pay off personal debts. My dad found it all laid out on the kitchen table one night when I was 3 hours away at school. He didn't call to ask me a single question. He called the county sheriff instead. I found out I'd been charged with embezzlement from a voicemail my own father left on my dorm phone. Don't bother coming home for Christmas, Dana. We know what you did. If you think that's rock bottom, buckle up, because it took the DA's office 4 more months to even clear my name, and by then the damage was already permanent. Real quick before I keep going, if you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do and watched somebody else walk away clean while you took the fall, drop a comment with the word "set up" right now. I want to see how many of y'all have lived some version of this. The charges against me got dropped that spring. Turns out, once an actual forensic accountant looked at the evidence, the ledger discrepancies had inconsistencies that pointed towards someone reconstructing entries after the fact, not in real-time sloppy work, honestly, for something that ruined my whole life. The DA's office quietly closed the file. No formal exoneration statement, no apology, just paperwork that said the case wasn't pursuable. You'd think that would have been enough for my family. It wasn't. My dad told me over a phone call I'd begged for weeks to get that the charges getting dropped doesn't mean you didn't do it, Dana. It just means they couldn't prove it good enough. My mom never said much of anything at all, just cried on the extension, the same helpless crying she always did whenever my dad made a call none of us could walk back. I called 11 times that first month after the charges dropped. My number got blocked. I mailed a full copy of the forensic accountant's report, every discrepancy, every red flag pointing away from me. It came back unopened. My Aunt Cheryl, the one person who ever gave me the benefit of the doubt, tried talking to my dad directly. He told her word for word I don't need Dana's lawyer tricks explained to me in my own kitchen. I finished law school with $6,000 in loans and zero family in the audience at graduation. I clerked for a federal judge for 2 years, then joined the DA's office in Allegheny County doing white-collar fraud prosecution, the exact kind of case, ironically, that had once been used to destroy my own name. Fast forward 8 years. I'm an assistant district attorney now, senior enough that I handle the county's bigger fraud and financial crimes cases. I've got a townhouse in Squirrel Hill, a fiancé named Marcus, who teaches high school physics, and has never once doubted a word I've told him, and a rescue mutt named Ledger. Yeah, I named my dog after the thing that ruined my life. My therapist has opinions about that, and honestly, so do I. Millbrook's 40 minutes away, and I haven't set foot there once in 8 years. 3 weeks ago, Cheryl called sounding rattled. Dana, there's something happening with Colton you need to hear about. Before she could get another word out, my office line rang a new intake priority flag DA review requested same day. I told Cheryl I'd call her right back. I never got the chance because what Cheryl was trying to warn me about was already sitting in a holding cell 2 floors below my office. My supervisor dropped the case folder on my desk without much ceremony. Hit and run on Route 9 last night. Cyclists in the ICU might not make it. Drivers already got Pryor's DUI 8 years back that somehow never stuck. We need this one airtight. I flipped open the folder. Defendant. Colton Whitlock. DOB matched. Address matched, still living above the store, still in Millbrook. The office noise around me went quiet for a second, the way it does when your whole body remembers something before your brain catches up. For half a heartbeat, I wasn't an ADA with 6 years of trial experience. I was 26 years old again, standing in a dorm hallway listening to a voicemail that ended my family. My supervisor noticed my face. You know him? He's my brother. I set the folder down carefully. I need to disclose a conflict before this goes any further, and I need you to decide whether I stay on it or hand it off. She studied me for a second. You want off it? I thought about 8 years of blocked calls and returned mail. No, I said. I want it done right. Put it in writing that I disclosed it. If my judgment slips even once, pull me immediately. Here's the thing about prosecuting your own brother. You don't get to cut corners just because it's personal. And honestly, I wouldn't have wanted to, even if I could. I built that case the same exhaustive way I build every fraud file. Traffic cam footage, paint transfer analysis, cell tower, pings placing his phone at the scene, and because old habits die hard, I couldn't help pulling the store's financial records going back years just out of professional curiosity. That's where things got a lot bigger than a hit and run. Buried in 8 years of digitized bank records was the exact pattern I remembered from that summer, small, irregular cash withdrawals timed around Colton's known gambling trips to Atlantic City. Except now with modern forensic tools, and 8 more years of him doing the exact same thing sloppier every year, because he thought nobody was ever looking again, the pattern wasn't ambiguous anymore. It was airtight. And this time, there was no fabricated evidence pointing at me, because I'd been gone from that store's books for 8 straight years. I brought it to my supervisor. There's a secondary fraud pattern here going back nearly a decade. I think it connects to something in my own family's history, something I was actually accused of once before the real pattern was ever properly traced. She raised an eyebrow. You're saying he set you up? I'm saying the math says he did. Colton's arraignment was on a Tuesday morning. I walked into that courtroom in my usual gray suitcase files under my arm, same as I do every single week. I hadn't warned him I'd be handling it professionally. That's not something you tip off beforehand. But the second he looked up from the defense table and saw my face, I watched every ounce of color drain out of his. Dana? He said loud enough that the bailiff had to remind him to address the court properly. I didn't answer him. I set my files down at the prosecution table same as I do for every case, and let him sit there with it. And for a second, just a second, I let myself actually look at him instead of past him the way I do with every defendant, because I needed to see it happen. His mouth opened again like he wanted to get out my name or an excuse or God knows what, and then it just hung there. Nothing came out. His public defender leaned in and murmured something to get him to sit back and stay quiet, and Colton did. But his eyes stayed locked on me the whole time, wide the way you look at someone when the floor you've been standing on for 8 years just quietly gives out under you. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not the guy who used to charm a discount out of anybody in Millbrook. Just a guy in a courtroom finally out of moves and clearly realizing it in real time. I didn't give him anything back. Not a nod, not a flicker. Nothing that told him whether this was going to go easy on him or not. Honestly, standing there, I wasn't fully sure myself yet. My parents were in the second row. I hadn't clocked them until that exact moment, my dad in a suit, 2 sizes too big, clearly borrowed for the occasion, my mom clutching a tissue that was already soaked through. When my dad's eyes moved from Colton's face to mine standing at the prosecution table in a role he never once imagined me holding, I watched the same thing happen to him that I'd once imagined happening in 100 different daydreams over 8 angry years. His whole understanding of the last decade cracking open in real time right there in a public courtroom where he couldn't just hang up the phone and make it stop this time. I read the charges into the record. Vehicular assault leaving the scene of an accident causing serious bodily injury. My voice didn't shake once. It's not personal in that room, it can't be, or you lose the thread of the actual case, but every word landed heavier than any case I'd ever prosecuted before, and I could feel Colton's eyes on me for every single one of them. Cheryl caught me in the hallway after the arraignment phone already pulled up to a message thread she'd been saving for exactly this moment. Turns out she'd known for 2 years that Colton was back in serious debt bookies, calling the store a second mortgage he'd quietly taken out on the building without my dad's knowledge. I tried telling your father last month, she said. He didn't want to hear it. Same as he didn't want to hear it 8 years ago. She showed me a text Colton had sent her 4 years back, something she'd kept without fully understanding why until now. Don't bring up the old embezzlement thing around Dad anymore, it just upsets him. Water under the bridge. Water under the bridge. 4 years after he'd used a fake set of ledgers to get his own sister criminally charged. Facing a fraud investigation into the hardware store's finances on top of the hit-and-run charge, Colton's attorney came to us 3 weeks later looking for a deal. Full cooperation on the vehicular charge restitution to the cyclist's family in exchange for the DA's office, not separately pursuing the older embezzlement pattern, given the statute of limitations complications on some of it. I wasn't the one who could ethically negotiate that piece given the conflict. My supervisor handled those conversations directly. But as part of Colton's cooperation, he had to give a full documented account of the fraud pattern under oath for the plea record. He admitted it. All of it. The forged ledgers 8 years ago, the planted bank slipped the burner phone receipt he'd tucked into my old closet like a stage prop. Said it in a small, flat voice, staring at the table, nothing like the guy who used to charm quarters off customers at the register. My dad was in the gallery for that hearing, too. I watched him hear his son say out loud on the record exactly what he'd done to me 8 years earlier. I didn't look at my dad's face when it happened. I didn't need to. Cheryl told me later he didn't say a single word the entire drive home. My dad called me 2 weeks after that hearing. First time in 8 years. He didn't apologize right away. I don't think Walt Whitlock has ever fully apologized for anything in his life, but he asked quietly if I'd be willing to get coffee sometime. Just coffee. No promises. I said yes on my terms. No showing up at the store. No pretending the last 8 years didn't happen. If we were doing this, we were doing it slow with actual honesty. Not the version of moving on my family's always been best at the kind where nobody says sorry and everybody just quietly agrees to stop mentioning it. My mom sent a letter a month later, the first real one in 8 years. Not much in it, but one line stuck with me. I chose easy over fair for a long time. I'm sorry it took this long to see it. Colton's serving his sentence now, restitution, probation, mandatory financial counseling, as part of the plea and a gambling treatment program the court required, given everything that surfaced. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I get it after an embezzlement frame job and a hit and run that put someone in the ICU probation feels like he got off easy. And some days I still wrestle with that myself. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. I wasn't ever going to get more out of a sentence than I got out of that plea hearing when he had to sit there under oath and say every single detail of what he did to me on the record forever, where nobody in that family could pretend it didn't happen, or explain it away as me being dramatic. 8 years of my dad choosing easy over true undone in about 4 minutes of Colton's own voice admitting it. That's the part that actually mattered to me, not how many months he serves, but that the truth is finally permanent, now filed and stamped and impossible to unwrite. I haven't visited him. I don't know if I will. Some bridges take longer to even consider rebuilding, and I'm not in a rush to force that one. I still keep Ledger's leash by my front door, still laugh a little every time Marcus makes a joke about the name. Cheryl comes for dinner most Sundays, now sitting at my table instead of relaying secondhand family news over the phone. Last weekend, my dad came by for the first time. Stood in my kitchen looking almost as lost as Colton did in that courtroom, not sure where to put his hands. Marcus handed him a coffee and asked if he wanted to help set the table. My dad, a man who ran a hardware store with an iron grip for 30 years, actually asked me which drawer the forks were in. It's not everything. It's not even close to everything. But it's honest. And after 8 years of forged ledgers and unopened letters, honest is worth more to me now than anything that just looks clean on the surface. If you've ever been falsely accused by someone who should have had your back, tell me in the comments how long it took the truth to catch up. And if this one hit you the way I hope it did, there's another story just like it linked right after this. I'll see you there.